Well, a big hello and welcome to everybody. My name is Rick Adams from Practical CSM, and I am really pleased today to be kicking off, actually, in a way, our schedule for 2023 because we are off to a bit of a slow start in January, getting our act together with publishing our new schedule. And part of that new schedule is an entire series on the practical CSM framework, which we've redone from previous ones. So even if you've seen it before, actually on this occasion, these are new slides, a slightly new presentation. So you may get something new out of it as well. Let me share my screen so that you can see the screen. And you should be able to see there the title slide. So we've got an hour together. And our topic on for this month, the month of February, is on the first two phases of the framework. Phase one, preparation, and phase two, commitment. So there are 7 phases in total. We will be doing the other phases as we move forward through March, April, May, etc. And then we'll probably repeat them in the second half of the year. So if you missed one, you've got that. Of course, they are all recorded as well. So if you do miss one, you've always got the recording to fall back on as well. And whilst we're getting ourselves organized, just to say that we do have the chat window open. So feel free, please, to put your comments, suggestions, questions, answers to any questions I ask in the chat window, and I'll be monitoring that and I'll pick those up as we go forwards. And you'll also notice that Gerald, who is the event manager for today, thank you, Gerald, has included a few links there, upcoming events, signing up for our newsletter, getting the Practical CSM Framework book, and also the eval for this course, so which I will remind you about at the end. So, okay, without further ado, I think we've had enough time for people to join. Let's get going. And as I said, today we're focusing on the Practical CSM Framework, the initial stage, the first two are phases of preparation and commitment. We will also just do a little bit of an overview of what the framework is about as well. Before we settle in specifically to that, just in case you don't know who I am, I'm actually the CEO and founder of Practical CSM, which is a training company focusing on customer success management. I'm also the creator of the framework, and that's written into my book, Practical Customer Success Management, available from all good bookstores, as they say. You can get that from Amazon or whatever. And I've had a fairly long career now, stemming back around 30 years. I've delivered training, coaching, and consultancy across 30 different countries. I've actually been involved in various startup tech companies, including my own SaaS startup, which I ran for 6 years myself. And of course, I now have my own business as well. And I've also been involved in larger organizations such as Cisco as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. In fact, that's quite enough about me. Let's talk about what we're going to be covering on this hour together. So the key learning points for today is a little bit about the purpose of a framework in general, why use one, and then what is the Practical CSM framework. So we'll do a little bit about that, and then we'll move on to more of an in-depth discussion, as we said, on phase one, preparation, and phase two, commitment. So that's what we'll be covering, and that's what you'll be familiar with by the end of this session. And as I said, please do contribute through the chat window. You're welcome to put in any questions that you might have, and you're welcome also just to type in observations or comments as we move forward. So as we said, then the first section is using a framework. So I've got a quote here, a very famous quote from Sir Isaac Newton: "If I've seen further than others, it is by standing on the shoulder of giants." So what's the point? Well, the point here that I'm trying to make is, it's all about being able to get farther and further not by repeating the work that other people have done, but by reusing their work. So if there's already been a lot of customer success professionals going out there and developing and creating best practice in customer success by trial and error, by inspiration, by hard sweat and tears, and by gradually refining and improving and making it better, well, why not use the results of that rather than go through that process yourself? No need to reinvent the wheel. Best practice is out there. And so that is the point of a framework. It's already providing all the stuff that's known to you as your frame for you to stand on top of, and then you can then build what you need to build on top. Now, of course, it's not going to give you absolutely everything down to the final like little detail exactly as you may need it for your company, because you've got a unique company with unique strategies, you've got unique customers, you've got a unique set of products and services, you go about things in a unique way, and so on and so forth. So it's like applying the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, is that 80% is going to be the same or similar for all customer success management. 20% is going to be kind of different each time. And so by using a framework, you can do all of that spade work in the 80% and get it 80% right straight away, and just then spend your time on the 20% of getting it exactly how you need it for your company, your customers, your product. So that's the concept of using a framework in general, and it provides structure. It provides a set of process that is pre-created step by step. This is how to do it. It provides the guidance so that people don't have to work out what to do and then do it. They just get on and do it. So that makes you much more efficient, much more productive, and also make sure that you don't forget things and so on. So step-by-step guidance, it's all documented. We know the assets and resources we need. It's published and everyone can get hold of it. We train our team on it. We provide them with the assets and resources, and everybody is now ready and can be productive. Okay, so we make sure then that we in our team do the right things to the right quality in the right order, and we don't forget any of them. All right, so that's frameworks in general. What about the practical CSM framework itself? Well, of course, this is specific to customer success management, and it works in a variety of sort of sizes and types of organization, but it is only for the, if you like, post-sales part of our customer's journey. And that's really what it's designed to do in mind. So it was originally published in my book that I mentioned earlier, Practical Customer Success Management. And we also have a smaller book, which is just purely on the framework, which we've got a PDF version, which you can have for free. If you stay to the end, I'll give you the link for you to be able to get yourself a copy of that free, I think it's 135-page PDF on the framework. So bear with me on that. But also, if you want to go even further, then the full proper book you can see there, Practical Customer Success Management, with a foreword by Gene Bliss, who's a very famous, well-known CCO, perhaps even really the most well-known Chief Customer Officer that there is. So well worth a read. Okay, anyway, going back to the Practical CSM framework. So it's authored by me. It's published in that book. It divides the post-sales customer journey into 7 distinct phases, and then breaks down each phase into a set of core tasks or activities, and then breaks down the activities into a set of steps to take. And this is what makes it so easy to follow. It's very practical. It's quite thorough. It's got what you need in it. It's in a step-by-step, easy to follow way. It's adaptable to fit all types of organizations, and it is very much what we use as the backbone for our training if you come on one of our training courses. Very simple to implement, very simple to manage. It's very practically minded. It's not theoretical or academic only. Of course, there's got plenty of theory in it, but it is a practical thing that is actually very usable on the ground, and it helps you to improve the service that you deliver to your customers in terms of the quality, in terms of consistency as an individual applied across multiple customers, and indeed as a team applied across all your CSMs, because you're all doing the same thing in the same way. There also, because we're following best practice, it helps to reduce errors and omissions. It improves and enhances trust relationships with our customers because it focuses very much on that relationship building side of things, which we believe is very important. It helps us to reduce churn and increase revenue opportunities because it focuses us again on those opportunities and what to do and how to do it at the right stages in that journey that the customer is going on. And it can, if we do it well and implement it within our organization, it can help us to recruit, onboard, coach, and retain high caliber CSMs. And of course, in doing so, then it's going to make it easier for us to scale up our team without us as managers and senior managers having to spend a lot of time on the coaching and the training, because we've got a methodology for people to follow, and ultimately gives us a competitive advantage over our competitors, of course. So I mentioned it's got 7 phases. They're divided into 3 major stages: initial, user readiness, and ongoing. And the first 2 phases are preparation and commitment, and they're the ones we're going to go through today, and they are in the initial stage. So the initial stage is all about initialization. It's about getting ready. Readiness for ourselves, readiness for the customer, and readiness between us for how we're going to collaborate and partner and work together. So that's the initial stage. Then we've got the user readiness stage, and this is the big one in terms of the amount of effort that is needed by the CSM, and indeed by the maybe the project management and stakeholders in the customer's organization as well. This is about obviously getting the users ready, getting them to become masters of the processes that they're going to be using our product or our service or our components, our solution to achieve the outputs and ultimately the ROI that our customer is looking for. So someone's got to do some work to generate the value, right? Well, what work needs to be done? Who's going to do it? What training do they need? What support do they need? What coaching do they need? How should they be incentivized, motivated, etc.? This is all in the onboarding, the adoption planning, and the adoption implementation. And so by the end of this phase 5, they're all masters of our product. And then, of course, they can start to maximize the value that they're generating. So phase 6 is value realization, and this is in the ongoing stage, which is the longest stage, but not so much work to be done. But this goes on for as long as that customer remains a customer with us. We're going to continue to do our business reviews with them, like QBRs, for example. We're going to continue to report on progress and on outcome generation. We're going to continue to make suggestions for improvements. We're going to continue to upsell, cross-sell, and make sure that we get the renewals, to maximize the renewal opportunities. So that's all happening in the value realization, as well as things like advocacy as well, for example. And then whilst we're doing all of these other 6 phases that we've talked about, we're always keeping in mind how can we improve. And particularly then at the end, we'll also look back upon those 7 phases and say, how can we get better? Let's evaluate our engagement. Let's see what we did well and learn from that. Let's see what we didn't do so well and see how we can fix that in the future. And just to point out as well that throughout all the phases, we're using a concept of a central repository for data and information, and making sure that the right people have the right access level to the data that they should have and the information that they should have to be able to do their jobs well. So that's the concepts, if you like, of the practical CSM framework. And as you can see, it's very logical, it's very process oriented. It takes you on the journey through the typical customer engagement, through those phases that we saw there, through the stages of initialization, getting the users ready, and then getting ongoing value driven by their use of our product. Okay, so introduction done. Now let's focus on the actual phase 1 and 2, starting with phase 1, preparation. So what do we do in phase 1 and what's it all about? Let's take a look. As I said, feel free if you have any questions as we go through to put them in the chat window. I know this is very much a lecture. It's the nature of this content and the fact that it's just a 1 hour. When we do longer training, of course, we do exercises and things like that. But in an hour, we've really just got to the time to explain everything to you. So what happens at the preparation phase? It's for us. the preparation phase, us as in we, the CSM. So this is the activities that we might do as a customer success manager prior to even meeting anybody from the customer organization. And we're going to, with the idea in mind that we're going to hit the ground running when we do meet them. We're going to be useful right out the gate because we've done our homework. We know who they are. We know what they've bought, why they've bought it, what they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to achieve it. We know where they are in the process right now, what needs to be done next. And we're going to go in with all of this information and really add some value, so that we become their friend. We build a good relationship with them. They start to trust us and desire to speak to us because they can immediately see the value that we're bringing. So why is this important? Well, as we've said then, it's useful right out the gate in the first meeting with the customer. We're minimizing the likelihood of going with assumptions that are wrong and making mistakes in front of the customer that may be very off-putting to them. They may be rolling their eyes and thinking, well, you shouldn't really have said that. If you'd done your homework, you'd know we couldn't do that because of X or Y that's already been discussed with others in the organization, for example. And in order to know when we do go to talk to the customer, what to ask them, what information still needs to be found out from the customer that we don't know yet, or what information do we think we know but needs validation to make sure that it's correct and accurate and up to date. So we've got a checklist of things we want to ask and things we want to find out from the customer when we go to them, because we've already done that preparation work. We know what to ask, and we also know what to propose to them. We've done our homework again, and we've thought through, well, in this situation, given what we know, which isn't everything yet, but at this stage, I've already got some recommendations. I've got a success plan in mind, and I'd like to explore this with you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. These are my ideas for how we can help and the types of things that we can do together and how it might work between us. So we're going to go to them with a proposal, if you like. This is how I can help you. And this is what they want. They want to be passive in this. They want us to be proactive. And actually, that's one of the things we often find in customer success management. We're often asked by senior managers, how can you make my team more proactive? How can you get them to not just be reactive to problems when they come up, but actually proactively go out there, consult with the customer, find out the needs, build a plan, and help them implement that plan? And that is exactly what the Practical CSM framework is doing. And it all kicks off in the preparation phase. Okay, so by the end of this phase one preparation, we'll have performed sufficient research to understand the engagement. We'll have documented it in our repository, of course. We'll have determined the information gaps, what we don't know and what we think we know, but we're not sure. And we'll have kicked off the success planning process, as we have just discussed. And we will also have formulated some kind of strategy around how we're going to approach the customer, who are we going to approach, what are we going to say, how are we going to manage the people, how are we going to get them on board and thinking like we want them to think, and how are we going to persuade them and sell them the concept that working with us as the CSM is a good idea. Okay, so that's what we want out of phase one. So really the big thing in phase one is the research. So Liz has just asked a question. Thank you. Do you have any recommendations or a checklist on what that internal handoff should look like? Yes, we certainly do. We don't have time to give you the detail of absolutely all the detail in this 1 hour. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a taster, Liz, but if you come on the full training, the Certified CSM Professional Program, we will go into great depth about all of that stuff. And you will get a checklist, you'll get a tool as well. So you'll be given the tool, which you can then, of course, adapt. It's an Excel spreadsheet format, which you can then adapt as well. So, and by the way, the tool was also, you can get the tools if you buy the book. So that's in there. And Jerome is asking, what will be in the success proposal? We'll come to it. Okay, hold on that one. Great question, Jerome. We'll come to it. So anyway, going back to the research first, we'll talk about the proposal in a second. So let's look at what type of research we might want to do. So the first thing is the initiative itself. So that's the customer's initiative. What are they buying this product for? What's their purpose for it? What's their strategy? What's their initiative? What are they implementing? What are they doing? Who's involved? How knowledgeable are they, etc. Then, okay, what did we sell them? So the initiative is the thing they're doing. The solution is our part that we're providing. So what do we provide, and how does it help them get where they need to go? We need to make sure we know that. Then the customer as a business, the more we understand how they operate, what different departments and teams, what those capabilities are, who's responsible for what, and understand both the business and indeed the personality, the stakeholders, what they are like and what their sort of political stance is, and whether they're pro or against what us as an organization, how helpful they are, how available they are, what their preferred way of communication is, all of that sort of thing. So the more we know both the customer from a business point of view and from a stakeholder point of view, the easier we will find it to engage with them and make good quality suggestions that actually make sense in the context of their business and what they're trying to achieve. And then the engagement itself, in other words, how far through are they in all of this? Where are we up to? Have we implemented it yet? Have we switched it on? Are people using it as yet? Where are we in the process? And all of that sort of detail. And how well has it gone so far? Have there been any problems? Is the customer already frustrated, or are they delighted at the moment? Or have there been a lot of troubleshooting? What's the situation currently? So that's our task. So, okay, quite a bit to do. So let's just build that next level then of detail. In terms of the initiative, what might that include? Well, the challenge, the opportunity, the problem that they're trying to solve, the challenge they're going for, the outcomes that they require. What do they need to achieve from this initiative that they're working on? Both required, must do this. So, for example, it must meet this new piece of legislation. It comes into effect at the beginning of next year. If we don't meet it, we'll actually be illegal. So it's an absolute requirement. But we would also like it to help us be more productive and efficient as well. So we're hoping for a 10% improvement in productivity as well. Would be an example of required and desired outcomes. What are the major milestones and targets? Do they have any of those? Is it just a question of either we hit the end result or we don't? Or is there a number of steps that we can aim for en route to that, so that on a quarterly or half annual or annual basis, we can check in and say, yeah, we've reached that milestone. We're going in the right direction at the right sort of pace. We're going to be able to hit our ultimate outcome at the end. Who is going to be impacted or involved? Which business functions, which business departments, which teams are going to be involved, and which stakeholders, therefore, are going to be involved, who are managing those teams and departments, and obviously the end users who are in those teams are also the stakeholders. So which functions and departments, and ultimately then which capabilities within those functions and departments are going to be impacted directly, i.e. they're going to use our product, or indirectly because function A uses our product and then they have an output that goes to function B, and because the output is now 50% more effective, department B now also needs to be more effective to deal with more information or more output coming from function A. You need to think about these things. Otherwise, we've just moved the bottleneck along for our customer. So we need to point these things out to our client and make sure that they're prepared for them. Well, how are we going to measure this? How are we going to know, or how are they going to know whether they're moving towards their outcomes, whether they're hitting their targets and their milestones? So what are we going to use? What are the key performance indicators that will tell us early on whether we're heading in the right direction, and will tell us later on, ultimately, whether we have hit the targets that we've set ourselves, or that they have set themselves? So that's 1A, the initiative. 1B is the solution, if you remember. So about the solution, well, what are the solution components? So if you're a small SaaS company, you may only have one product, and it's that product we sold them it, and you might even only have one version of it. Or you might have one product, but you've got a bronze, a silver, and a gold editions with more functionality. Or you might have, you might be like the client that I mentioned that I had, Cisco, who've got a portfolio of thousands, in fact, multiple portfolios, each containing thousands of hardware and software components and services that can be picked and put into an overall solution to fix a particular problem or meet a particular challenge within a customer organization. So another way of saying it is, what have we sold them, or what's the bill of materials? Okay, and then does that also have any development, any customization, any manufacturing that needs to take place before they actually get it, and how far are we in it? Does it need to be implemented, or is it just a question of switching it on and use the password? Does it need to be integrated? Does it need to be configured? Are there any professional services? Are we doing it? Are they doing it? Is it a third party doing it? Is it a combination of those things? Are there any managed services, i.e. not just getting it up and running, but actually then managing it on an ongoing basis? So we may have those in place. And what are the consumption or payment options? Is it a one-off fee and they've bought it and it's theirs now, or are they paying it like a SaaS type renewable contract? And if so, is it monthly, annual, quarterly, every 3 years? What's the renewal process and time? And are there any particular deadlines where it's got to be doing this by this date in order for them to meet their requirements and be able to sign off and move us to the next stage? And that's obviously particularly important when we're looking at contract renewals. Do we have any outcomes that we've promised the customer? Have we guaranteed that our solution will do X? We better know that. Okay. And regardless of whether we've promised it, what's the expectation from the customer? So we've guaranteed X, but we've kind of intimated that they should expect Y, and Y is X plus 20%. Okay, so again, we need to understand all of that. So that's our 1B, which is our solution information. What type of research might we do around the customer's business? Well, so general corporate information, who are they, where are they headquartered, how big is the organization, what are the structure and the functional capabilities of it, who heads up the different departments, have they published a vision and a mission statement, have they got some core strategic objectives, are they going for growth or consolidation, or what is it that they're trying to achieve? Better quality, are they trying to create a better reputation in the market for quality and consistency? What are they trying to achieve? Who are their customers, and what is their VP, their value proposition to the customers? To put it another way, why do their customers come to them and be the customer of them instead of going to some other company? Like if you think about, why might a Mercedes customer buy them from Mercedes rather than choose Ford or Mazda or whoever else? Okay, so what is it about that organization that attracts those customers? What's their market position in the market? Are they number one? Are they one of the top five? Are they an also ran somewhere in the middle? Are they considered to be an innovative up and comer, or are they considered to be one of the old hands who's been around a long time but isn't so innovative, or whatever the situation is? Useful to know, interesting, because you might be able to give some good advice and help them to improve that position. What's their corporate culture? Should you be able to go to anybody and ask anything, or do you need permission from senior people to talk to more junior people before you put your foot in it? Okay, who makes the decisions and how are those decisions made, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's 1C, and then 1D is the customer stakeholders. So obviously, who are they? Who are the people who are responsible for this initiative and who are responsible for the different capabilities and the different functions and departments that will be impacted by this initiative? So in general and specifically for this initiative, who do they report to, and what are the what do they need to report, and how can we help them look good going up to their bosses? Who do they manage? Which teams do they manage? Who are they influenced by that maybe we can then influence the influencers to get some of these stakeholders on board? What are their targets? What are their objectives? Personally, what are their KPIs? What are they trying to achieve to make themselves look good? How much will this initiative and what we do impact on them? And what is their opinion? What is their viewpoint? Are they for us, against us, helpful, unhelpful, and so on? What's the current relationship like? Are we being handed off from an account manager and they've got a great relationship already and that they're passing that through to us? What's the situation? Have they never heard of us even before? And it's just some other also ran SaaS company that they don't care about as yet. And we're going to need to make them care about it because they need to see the value. And then finally, what about personal characteristics? What's their personality like? How do they make decisions? How well do they collaborate? What type of communicator are they, etc. All right, good. 1E was engagement information. So what do we need to know about the engagement? What does the contract look like? What have we sold them? What's the bill of materials? Who sold it? Let's go and talk to them, obviously. Who designed it, if it's more of a complex solution like the Cisco example I gave. Were there any other subject matter expert, like a security guy who came in and consulted on the security side of it, for example? Service managers, if there are professional services and managed services involved. Was there a trial or a pilot, or are we in a trial or pilot now? And if so, what should the outcomes be and what's the next step after that? Has that all been discussed? What's the history up until now? Where are we and how well has it gone? And what's the plan moving forwards? What's been discussed and agreed already? And where are we right now? Okay, good. So, and are there any deadlines? Sorry, as well, and challenges and risks to finish off with. So you might be thinking, bloody hell, Rick, I've got barely time to get dressed in the morning, let alone do all that research. When do you think I'm going to do all that research? Do we really need it? Well, that's for you to decide. I am pointing out to you, these are all the things that I would suggest you need to consider whether you need or not. Then you can decide which ones you really do need based on your specific way of doing customer success management, what you're tasked with, what your outcomes need to be, and how complex the situation is, and so on and so forth. So you pick what you need out of that list, but you've got the list. That's the point. Okay. However, I would suggest that there are some rules that I would think could be useful in 99% of cases. So rule number 1, only store the data you're allowed to keep. Remember that there are privacy laws. So, for example, GDPR in Europe, and also there are similar in the US and North America. So only store the data you're allowed to keep. Do not duplicate data. It leads to inconsistencies. Keep one copy, keep it in a central repository, and make sure that it's secure. Make sure that it's kept up to date. Know how accurate the data is, or indeed needs to be. And if it's not accurate enough, you can do something about it. So where are you going to go to get all of this information? Well, of course, the start point should be your colleagues, going internal to the account manager and talk to them, to the solution architect, to the subject matter experts, to the service managers, whoever is involved. Also, your company's information systems, so sales systems, CRM systems, customer success systems, whatever you've got that is software that has got this type of information on it, you should be able to have access to all of that. And of course, the internet for more of the research about your customer. And if they're a big company, then there may be thousands of web pages and lots of information about them. And if they're a smaller business, obviously it's going to be less, and you may be more relying upon their website on the internet, and that's about it. And lastly, go to the customer. Why lastly? Because it's polite to have done all the work we can, so we're not asking them questions that are wasting their time. So we want to go to the customer last with just the fill in the gaps questions that we couldn't find anywhere else. Can you help me with this? I've understood this, and this, but I'm not quite so sure about this. Could you just help me fill in that gap, please? And of course, there will be gaps. You're not necessarily going to find out how many people will be involved in this particular process. You're unlikely to find that out on the internet. It may not be something that your account manager found out, and so you need to find it out now because you're thinking about the training or the support or communication that needs to take place to that particular cohort of users. Okay. And then also think about what needs validating. So is it accurate? Is it accurate enough? I mean, not everything has to be exact. Not everything ever can be exact. So for some things, it might be, it needs to be precise. For other things, it might be that a 10% margin of error is perfectly okay. For other things, a 50% margin of error, and you're doing well. So you need to know that. Okay. So information needs to be either it is accurate enough, or it is not accurate enough and you're going to do something about it, or it's not there and you're going to do something about it, or we don't actually know whether this information is accurate or not, in which case, again, you're going to need to do something about that as well. So those are the 4 states that information might be. So again, you just need to clarify when you're looking at information, just because it's written down doesn't mean it's true. And we all know that. But once it is written down, and particularly if it goes onto a corporate system, we start believing it if we're not careful. All right. So we need to think about that. Is that accurate? And by accurate, of course, that could be up to date. Yeah, could be a part of an accuracy. So very typically, I will, in my role when I'm selling to a customer and I'm going back and I'm doing an evaluation maybe for a 12-month renewal, I will find that all sorts of people have joined or left that team, meaning that there are quite a lot of differences between what that team was like 12 months ago and what it's like now that we need to take into account of when we're looking at the renewal licenses. As an example of what we're talking about here. Okay, good. So as mentioned then, when you purchase training from us, or if you get the full book, the properly published book, then we do actually provide a set of tools. And one of the tools is this research checklist, which has a set of tabs: customer solution, initiative, stakeholders, status, and other notes, all already there, all documented and written down, and you can have that as a start point to build your own template from. So bear that in mind if that's of interest to you. And in the meantime, think about, well, what are the options available, to me, or to you? How can you document and store this stuff? What will you use? Maybe you've already got stuff in your customer success management tool. Okay, so we have a question from Cassandra. I can't see any of this. Am I supposed to? Yes. So we are, or I am, sharing my screen. I have been since the beginning. It tells me I'm screen sharing. Can I just make sure that other people can see the screen? Please, if someone could just indicate, give me a yes if you can see the screen. Yes, everyone else can. Try, Cassandra, maybe try coming out, leaving this webinar and entering back in. Maybe that will fix it. Otherwise, Gerald, maybe our event manager, can help you. Cassandra has a tip for you. She's finding the text is not clear. That could be a bandwidth issue, possibly at your end, Cassandra. We're using Zoom webinars. It's about as good as we can get. And certainly from my point of view, it's certainly coming across crisp and clear for me. Okay. Okie dokie. So no, I can't make it bigger, Cassandra. It's perfectly okay for most people. I think it might be something at your end. I'm sorry, it is what it is. But it is, we're using Zoom. It's the best tool that we can access. It's not a cheap one. So let's move on to the engagement strategy then. What are we trying to achieve here? Absolutely, Anna. How will your solution help your customer? And then use this as your basis for your customer success plan. So we've done all this research, and now we're thinking to ourselves, right, what can we do about it? Well, we can now build the beginnings of a strategy for what we want to say to our customer moving forward. This is how we're going to engage with you. We want to come to them and say, as your CSM, okay, this is my proposal to you. I think I can help you in these ways, and it's a consultation. It's a two-way conversation and a negotiation, but we need to come to them with some ideas. They should be the passive, we should be the proactive in this. So we want to come to them with an idea, a high-level list of activities, Cassandra, you couldn't see the spreadsheet. Yeah, well, that's because you're not on the paid training course, Cassandra. When you cross our paths with Silver, you will get the spreadsheet, or buy the book. You get access to the spreadsheet there. So it was just an image that showed the spreadsheet. Okay, so so the engagement strategy is going to include agreement on how we're going to engage, how often, what format. Are we calling them on the phone? Are we doing Zoom calls? Are we going to use Microsoft Teams? Are they going to set the appointments? Are we going to do it? Are we going to present data in a certain format? How long are the meetings going to be? All of that sort of thing. And then also, a roadmap with some milestones in it. And then let's also document what their specific requirements, challenges, and dependencies are going to be, and the major activities within each phase of the journey. We got there in the end, Cassandra. That's brilliant. Okay, so the engagement strategy itself then should contain strategic information about the initiative and the high-level roadmap. That's what we need to have in front of us. But at this stage, remember, we've not even met the customer, or we might have done actually even prior to the sale being made. We might have been introduced to them, but we've never really engaged properly as the CSM as yet. So this is only like early days, our ideas for the high-level roadmap, and it's based upon our early stage research, but we're going to be adding and amending as we move forwards in this. We're only in phase 1, phase 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as we move forwards, so we will be able to more refine and improve that roadmap. So it's a working document that we're going to be using all the way through. Okay, so by the end of phase 1, we'll have performed enough research to understand the engagement. We'll have documented it in the repository. We will have determined the information gaps. We will have kicked off the success planning process, and we will have formulated an initial engagement strategy. So, okay, all good so far. We're nicely on time. And apologies, I just want to go back to Jerome. I just want to pick the name. Jerome, keep bearing with me. We will get to the answer to your question when we look at phase 2, commitment. So we've done all this hard work. Okie dokie. So we've done all this hard work, and now we are ready to meet the customer. Now, of course, it's not quite like this. Okay. Each of these phases, you need to think of this as being, yes, okay, so you do phase 1 before phase 2. Yeah, okay. And you do phase 2 before phase 3. But there is a blurring of the edges. So it may well be that we'd start doing some phase 3 stuff whilst we're still doing some phase 2 stuff. We don't have to wait and say, no, I can't possibly meet you. I haven't done all my research yet. If the customer says, I'd like to meet you now, then we say, yes, that'd be lovely. Thank you so much. Of course, I haven't got all of the data that I'd like to in front of me as yet, but let's have an early meeting. It would be really useful. I'd love to meet you. Okay, so you need to be agile about this, and not be too sort of retentive about which level you're on and which phase you're on. You need to do the job in front of you in the best way, which often means, first of all, you learn the rules, and then secondly, you break the rules. So phase 2 commitment, nevertheless, is focusing on the meeting of the customer. So you're going to meet the customer's stakeholders, you're going to form relationships with them, you're going to explain and evangelize the CSM role. You're going to remind them what they've bought from you, why it's important to them, and answer their questions, validate the information, gather any new information, and also, it doesn't say it there, but we're going to present them with this plan, this strategy. Why is this important? Well, customers may not be familiar with or have some false beliefs around customer success management. And imagine if they've had the type of customer success manager who was purely a reactive, process-oriented, technical support type CSM in a previous purchase of a previous product from some other supplier. And so they may think that that's what you're going to do, but you're not. You're going to be much more proactive, more consultative, more business oriented, and you're going to help them get the value. Very different. So you need to explain what you're going to do. They may not understand what they've bought. Believe it or not. Remember, obviously, a customer organization is an organization. An individual stakeholder may not necessarily know what others know within the organization. Very commonly, there'll be some senior people involved in the selling, and then they'll pass it to more junior people to actually get it done. Does the junior person know what the senior person knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they've had a fantastic handover. Maybe they haven't. Okay, so we need to consider that. So they may know what needs to be done, but they may not know how to do it. So again, we're going to help them understand that this is what you need to consider: the communication side of things, the training, the support, the monitoring and measuring, the reporting of value being returned. These are the things I'm going to be helping you with. And then gain commitment on your specific proposal for how you're going to work together. Okay, by the end of which we will then have met and formed relationships with the senior project lead and possibly other customer stakeholders. I call the person who is primarily responsible for making this initiative happen on the customer side. I call them the SPL, or senior project lead. We've explained and evangelized our role. We've answered their initial questions. We've conducted the initial research and any validation. We've presented our initial proposal and got their commitment. Yeah, I'll work with you in that sort of way. And we've even got a nice little contract written up, maybe even signed. Okay, so we've now got a working way forwards with a style and a cadence that we're both happy with. Everybody knows what they're doing and they can get on and do it now. Wouldn't that be lovely? So that's phase 2 commitment. We've cleared the decks, or we've laid the table, or however you want to look at it. But now we are ready by the end of this. Okay. Again, remember, we're not necessarily going to be, there's a blur between 1 and 2, and there's a blur between 2 and 3, which we'll come on to in next month. But anyway, the initial meeting. Now, there's lots of information about how to hold a good meeting that we're not going to go into here. But just to say, first of all, we're going to meet that senior project lead and other stakeholders. We're going to evangelize our role, provide the basic information, such as a welcome pack. We're going to answer questions about the solution and the engagement. We're going to start to build that credibility and rapport that gives us a trust relationship. We're going to fill in the gaps, present and discuss the success plan. The outputs will be an amended success plan and an agreement on what we're doing together, commitment that from them to work with us, an agreement on the major steps that need to be done and how we're going to do it, how we're going to communicate and work forwards, and particularly perhaps the next steps. What's the next thing going to be? We need to be clear on all of that. Okay, good. So recommendations when you're thinking about this. It is easier to do all of this, actually, if you have met them before. So I've been saying you've never met them before, but actually that's not really what I recommend. What I recommend is even before the sale has been made, is that the account manager or salesperson introduces you when you get to make your decision and you move on then to implementing. This will be the person who's going to be looking after you as your customer success manager, so that they don't get a surprise. So they already know what to expect and they're primed and ready to deal with you. Now it's post-sales, they've signed the contract and they're expecting you, and you've had the chance to explain all of this up front. Makes it much easier. If at all possible, of course, meet in person and face-to-face. If not, then video is much better than just telephone. Minimize the number of stakeholders at the first meeting or an initial meeting if you can. Try and get them on their own or in a small number. Why? Because you have a much higher quality. It's a different type of conversation. It's more personal. You can start to form a deeper, more profound relationship on a one-to-one basis than you can on a 40 people in the room and everybody's talking at once basis. You are in charge of this meeting. Up until now, these might have been meetings that were owned by sales. This meeting is owned by customer success, and don't let them tell you different. Okay, so you decide on the agenda, the timings, what's going to be said by who, and what's going to be documented, and what the next steps are, etc. It's your meeting. You need to get the things done that you need to get done. By all means, invite sales. I mean, it's great to have that ongoing partnership and relationship, but make sure they understand that you're in charge. Be flexible, work to the customer's requirements, focus on getting your output requirements that we've listed earlier. Be a great listener. Two ears, one mouth. Do not waste the customer's stakeholders' time. Have a short meeting if all you need is a short meeting. Don't have a long meeting if it's not necessary. Don't have a meeting at all if a meeting isn't needed. Okay, and do your relationship building all the time. Pay special attention. Make sure that they acknowledge the contents of the welcome kit. We'll talk more about the welcome kit when we look at phase 3 onboarding. We'll go into depth about that welcome kit. All right. But for now, all I'm going to say on it is make sure they acknowledge the contents of it. We'll talk more later. Make sure that they are committed to attaining their outcomes, that they agree your role as their CSM, and the role of your products and services. Make sure you have their permission to be their guide and helper. Make sure they really feel like they own that success plan and that they have a buy-in. You have a buy-in of from them of working together with them and what the cadence and the communication is going to be and all the rest of it. So that's what we really need to get out of. Now, it says there, the initial meeting. Now, again, I want you to think about that as being, well, that's one way of doing it, but actually this could well be over the course of a number of meetings and follow-up emails and phone calls. So it does not have to be one meeting by any means at all, okay? So I'm just talking about it as the initial meeting process, if you like. The process of a number of conversations, face-to-face, online, via email, real time and non-real time to get where you need to get to, which is ticking all of these boxes here. Does that make sense? All right. So, okay, good. I hope it does. And then the success contract, what might that contain in it, Jerome? Well, okay, good question, actually. Remember, what we're trying to achieve here is an agreement on what's going to be done and how it's going to be done. So it's going to be a little bit of a formalization of the relationship between the CSM and the customer. It's something that we can, if you like, outline what the work is that we're going to be doing. It sort of can document it so we both can be clear. Well, what is it we're doing together again? Oh, I see. Yeah, we're doing this. Because they may not be clear about, the change management and project management needs. They might have just been thinking, well, we bought the product. Isn't that it? No. This work is what needs to be done. So it documents what the work is that needs to be done. And that's really clear. And, it explains how we're going to do it. And particularly, what results we can expect, what the outcomes will be of doing it. So they can see the point of it, the value of it. And then maybe we're going to start indicating a roadmap of, a timeline with, these are the things we're going to do first, then next we're going to do this, and then we're going to move on to this. So we're going to research and find out who's going to be impacted, and then we're going to communicate to them what we're expecting of them. We're going to create new processes for them. We're then going to show them those. We're going to provide training to upskill them as necessary, so on and so forth. So there's this process we're going to be going through, and we need to make sure that this is, documented in some kind of order. Remember, at first we might not know all this detail. We only know, we know we're going to do those things, but we don't know the results of doing them yet. So that we've not got everything in the plan in all detail as yet. And of course, as we move forward, so we'll find other tools, other spreadsheets, and other things that we can use to do more of the detail. What I like about it is that we can use this as an ongoing reference point to ensure that we are where we need to be at each phase, each of these 7 phases, or each of these stages, or however you want to look at it as being, each part of the journey that the customer is going on post-sale. So again, just some considerations for you to take as takeaways to think about. Do you currently use some kind of success contract? Do you get the customer to, as it were, either metaphorically or actually sign to say, yes, I will take your customer success service and I will agree to helping the CSM do their job rather than be an obstruction and never helpful? Okay, so do you have something of that nature? Now, some organizations charge for customer success management, and I'm all for that, by the way. I'm not saying every company should charge for customer success management. I'm just saying, in the right circumstances, what a great idea. Those that charge obviously will have a contract, because well, it's chargeable. So we're going to want the customer to sign, because otherwise, how can we then enforce payment? So we will definitely have a contract in that situation. But shouldn't we have one anyway? Are we not effectively, I mean, someone's paying for it, right? Who's paying for it? Whether it's on the bill of materials or not, the customer is. Okay? They're paying for it either included within the product or as an additional line item in the bill. Still paying for it. So I think we should have some kind of contract in place. And I like the concept of a signature. It makes them recognize, this is a serious part of what we're delivering to you. This is not a little extra, option. It's not like a chocolate on your pillow in the fold down service in the hotel. It's the room, it's the whole thing. It's as important as the room. Okay. It's the service that enables that room to be available to you and clean and tidy. It's not just the chocolate. Okay, it's everything that is done to service that room. So do you currently use a service contract? And if not, would it be of use then? Think about that. And if you haven't got one, what should it look like? What should or should not go into it? And who should be involved in helping you in customer success decide what should go into it? Should it go through legal? Should it go through product or sales or marketing or support, or all of those departments, to make sure that you've got something clear and well defined? How formal does it need to be? Do you need them to actually sign it, or can we just write it down in an email and just say, if I've written this down, could you just email me back saying that your acceptance that is correct and we've got it right, or tell me what's wrong with it? Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual signature. Who's going to be involved in drafting it? And I say, try and get the customer involved and get, because it's so much easier to get someone to own it if they've been involved in writing it. Who should sign it? Can we template it? Here is a very simple idea of one. Again, it may not come up very well, Cassandra. So it's just a screenshot. And again, this is a template that we provide in the sort of paid for training. So for those who have bought the Practical CSM Professional Program, it's in that tools section. And this is very simple proposal that just says what we're going to be doing through the onboarding, adoption, value creation, and reporting processes, signed by the CSM and signed by the project lead. Okay, so it's in your tools zip files for those who have got the full training. So some best practices: know the people and their personalities. If you don't know the people, then before you meet them, consider personas for that role. So a typical head of marketing, a typical chief technology officer. What are they like? What are they concerned about? What are they measured on? That sort of thing. People are human and not robots. You need to consider that human aspect and manage the person. As a minimum, learn their management style, decision-making criteria, and reporting preferences, but be as thorough as possible when you research the stakeholders. Use a stakeholder management matrix and use a RACI matrix. If you're not sure what they are, come on the full training. We've got plenty of information about both of those. And don't forget yourself. One side is them, the other side of the relationship is you. So how ready are you for a good relationship business-wise? So my recommendation there is maybe look at yourself from an emotional intelligence perspective, which combines these four aspects of self-awareness, social awareness, relationship management, and self-management into an EQ score, which gives you your emotional quotient. Very well known. I'm sure you've come across it before, but I certainly would recommend that. Okay, so by the end of phase 2, just as we wrap up, you will have met and formed relationships with the stakeholders, evangelized the role, answered their questions, done the additional research, presented the proposal, got their commitment, agreed a way forwards, agreed the next steps, and started working on stakeholder management. So to wrap up, we looked at some stuff about just frameworks in general and a breakdown of the 7 phases of my framework. And we looked at phase 1 and we looked at phase 2. So next month, we're going to be looking at phase 3. The entirety is going to be devoted to onboarding. So that is phase 3 onboarding. So make sure you're here for it. Please complete the evaluation, which you can see there. So the URL is in the chat window. So all you need to do is click it. Please also, if you're interested, register for further events if you go to practicalcsm.com/events, or again, if you're one of our customers, then obviously you've got an even wider range of events in the live events schedule. If you're not already, then make sure you're on our newsletter so that you will get notified of all the events on a monthly basis. And finally, we've got a 135-page framework guide, which you can get. It's just a PDF version. There is a paperback version, actually, you can get from Amazon if you want, but for free, you can get the PDF version. So you can see the URL for that. And you will also see Gerald, again, thank you, has put that into the chat window, so you don't even need to type it. So there we are. Pretty good timing. I'm happy with that. We've been going just slightly under an hour, maybe, or pretty much exactly an hour, I guess. I hope you found it useful. If there are any final questions, better get them in quick. Jerome, I hope we've finally answered your question. And thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Liz. Really appreciate you being here. This has been recorded, so you will be automatically, you'll get an email with a link to the recording as well. And yeah, really appreciate you being here. And I look forward to talking to you about phase 3 onboarding in a month's time. For now, though, thank you all very much indeed. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I look forward to next month. Bye for now. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.